San Diego. They call it America's finest city. But behind the sunshine and ocean views, there is a real story, one told through homes, neighborhoods, and the people building their lives here. A market that's always moving, always evolving, and never quite as simple as it looks from the outside. I'm Carlos Gonzalez. I've been serving this community for over 20 years, and this is the San Diego Real Estate Insider, where we break down what's really going on in this beautiful city and talk about all things San Diego real estate. Let's get into it.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? I am Carlos Gonzalez. I am a realtor here in the beautiful city of San Diego. I've been serving the community for over 20 years. I'm passionate about real estate. I am passionate about building wealth. And welcome to the San Diego Real Estate Insider, where we talk about all things related to San Diego and its local real estate market. In my last episode, I spoke and we covered different strategies, or at least the top strategies out there that investors utilize to build wealth through real estate here locally. Now, of course, you can take these strategies and use them in a bunch of other, pretty much all across the country. But those are the five typical strategies that we're seeing here locally in San Diego. But I want to dig a little bit deeper, especially on one of them, which happens to be my personal favorite one, which is multifamily residential investment. So back when, and I'll give you guys a quick premise. Back in my surfing days, this was ages ago, centuries ago. So one of the things that we used to do, and that every surfer does before they jump on the water, is they go study the waves. They go study where the waves are breaking. They go study the patterns, the currents. So if you're seeing a bunch of guys near a surf break, just staring at the beach, like they're not just staring just for, oh yeah, it's beautiful, which of course it is beautiful, but the reason they're staring is because they're studying patterns so that they can really get to the wave that they want to surf. And in many cases, let's say that the wave is right straight ahead. A lot of folks, what they would do, and especially the newbies, they would paddle out, and because they were paddling out right where all the waves were breaking, it would take him 30, 40 minutes to get to the surf break, and by the time they got to the surf break, they were already gassed. The guys that were doing this for a while, the more experienced surfers, what they would do is they would look for those pockets so that they could essentially get to that wave, but maybe not as a straight line approach, but maybe going a little bit south and then entering through an area that there's not a lot of waves crashing, and then making a short swim over to wherever the surf break was. So there's this spot here in Sunset Cliffs that I used to love surfing back in the day, because there was right next to the surf break, there was a canal. And it was very nice because I would just try and locate the canal, and literally I would swim up the canal. It would take me 30 seconds to be at the surf break, when other surfers, because they were surfing through the waves, it would take them, 20, 30, 40 minutes. A set would come in, they would get destroyed, and they would finally get to the surf break, and they were of course out of gas and exhausted, and the last thing they wanted to do was surf, and they were just laying there on their boards. The reason I'm telling this story is because that is the story of home ownership today. 30, 40 years ago, when you were talking about, hey, I want to buy my first home, when folks would talk about, hey, I'm interested in becoming a homeowner, I think we're ready for that, it was a very different environment. It was a very different ecosystem. The guy that was, handling the cashier at the gas station was able to afford a home, right? We live in very, very different times. But because that's kind of what we grew up with, we still think that the entryway to home ownership is through the white picket fence house. That's currently the average for something like that here in San Diego, it's about $800,000, right? So we're thinking that that's the entryway, that's the straight line route, which in reality, what we have to do is study the market, study the waves, and really find the sweet spot. Look for that canal so that we can access the break without having to go through all that hard work that will eventually leave us gas, and it might make it very, very difficult for us to get to that point. Call it home ownership, call it a beautiful surf break, whatever you want. And in my opinion, the way, the cheat code or the canal to get to that surf break is through multifamily investing. Multifamily gives you the opportunity to still utilize first-time home buyer programs like FHA programs, or use a VA program with very, very minimum, or in the case of VA, with no down payment, and still you're able to buy a multi-unit property. And what a lot of folks are doing nowadays, and I know I'm messing a little bit with the way you think, because this is how our parents, our grandparents raised us, um, with multifamily being your first home. And a lot of folks are like, no, 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 I have to have the white picket fence house, and this is the way that. But in reality, the reality is that San Diego is such a very different landscape. You name it, economy, educational wise. It's such a different landscape from what it was 40 years ago, that you really, really need to tackle home ownership from a different perspective. Or, if I could say this a little better, you just have to approach it from a different angle. And that angle is through multifamily, through living in one of the units and renting the rest. And then once you build enough equity, or once you're able to put yourself in a different situation where you can essentially make that move, where you can say, you know what, it's been great. I bought a 3 unit property. My family and I live in one of the units. I rent the other two, and I got a raise of work, or hey, the rents have been great. There's been a lot of demand for rents. Therefore, I'm going to rent the unit I was living in, and now I'm going to go buy that house with the white picket fence. And now that I've built enough equity and all that stuff, so I want to dig in a little deeper on the multifamily, specifically the 2 to 4 unit um, properties, because I really feel. Are you guys able to? There we go. Because I really feel like they are the gateway to a lot of things, to home ownership, and to really, really build a real estate portfolio, to kind of get your feet wet so that you can eventually get to the next level, and start tackling, joint ventures, syndications, 6 units plus, 10 units plus, 20 unit plus type of apartment complexes, and not specifically 2 to 4 units. So why the 2 to 4 unit properties are the smartest wealth building strategy in San Diego? And this is my opinion. So let's jump right in. So I like multifamily because it gives you cash flow. Like I said earlier in my example, it gives you a low loan pay down, so tenants pay down your mortgage, building equity automatically. The cash flow, the monthly income after all the expenses, money in your pocket every month. It allows you to, hey, instead of paying $5,500 for the white picket fence house, you're paying way less, and it gives you leverage so that you can diversify yourself a little bit, so that you're not that tied up money wise, and you're able to still put some money in your savings, still do some traveling, still have some sort of a lifestyle appreciation. Property values in San Diego have historically risen over time. Over the past 4 years, it's been a little stale, and it's my prediction that we're going to see that staleness still over the next 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years, which is unusual for San Diego, because that's one thing that buyers and investors really focus on: appreciation. That's a big element, a big part of the equation here in San Diego. And the staleness that we've been seeing, it really affects appreciation, at the moment. And another really big, big element, another big benefit of investing in multifamily or buying a multifamily property is tax benefits, depreciation, accelerated depreciation, bonus depreciation, being able to qualify for real estate professional status, all those things. Multifamily investing really sets up the the playground per se. I'm always thinking, and I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, so I'm always thinking in kids' terms. Multifamily investing really sets up the table for you to become a real estate professional, to get that real estate professional status with the IRS. And by you being able to do that, there are so many benefits on the tax deductions and taking losses and all that. And so on the tax side of things, there are so many benefits by you being able to qualify as a real estate professional. Let's keep going here. Let's see. So why 2 to 4 unit properties are different? They occupy a unique, powerful space between homes and commercial real estate. 2 to 4 units, you still get residential financing, like I said. You still get FHA financing, you still get VA financing, pretty much zero down payment, conventional financing. The rental income helps you with the monthly payment, and the barrier of entry is easier than if you were to just start with the 10-unit apartment complex. 10-unit apartment complex is considered, or anything north of 5 units is considered commercial. Therefore, it's completely different rules, and it's a little bit more complex to get into it. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but the barrier of entry is a little bit higher. You know, like I always say, uh, 2 to 4 unit properties, those are your gateway drugs to real estate investing. So that's why I'm a big fan. So house hacking, you can also apply. In my previous episode, we spoke about house hacking. You can also implement house hacking when buying a 2 to 4 unit property. You buy the duplex, triplex, or fourplex, you live in one of the units and you rent the others. Your tenants help you offset your mortgage expenses while you build equity. So, and like I said, again, I love it because you can tap into FHA financing, VA financing. The rental income offsets your mortgage. You build equity while living on the property. It's easier financing than just commercial real estate, as I said earlier. And it is the stepping stone, in my opinion, it is the stepping stone to larger investments. This is the best way to kind of get your feet wet and um, get some what do you I always forget the phrases. Some wind beneath your sails, or however the phrase goes. So different financing options: FHA, VA, conventional, DSCR. DSCR is a very popular one nowadays. So I'll talk a little bit about DSCR, but I'm not a big fan, it is useful and it is helpful because DSCR loans are pretty much, if you're not able to verify your employment, it's a great route to take. I mean, you still get very high rates compared to FHA, VA, or conventional, but if you have a good opportunity in front of you, and DSCR is the only way to go, and maybe working on a strategy where you can refinance in 6 months to a year and refinance into a conventional loan, then I could see that definitely happening. So DSCR is a very popular um, type of loan. It's property income focused, great for investors scaling a portfolio. Or let's say that you have a hard money loan scenario and you want to do DSCR instead. It's much better to go the DSCR route and then strategize so that you can plan some sort of a refi 6 months later or a year later. So DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio. Can the property pay for itself? That's pretty much the requirement. Investors love it because there's no traditional income verification. It's great for self-employed investors, easier portfolio scaling, and focus is on the asset, not you. Again, it goes back to debt service coverage ratio. Can the property pay for itself? It's not so much about your individual situation. If the numbers make sense, then the DSCR loan is a good option. The trade-off is that you get higher interest rates. You have to put down a lot more than in your typical FHA, VA, or conventional financing. And loan costs and all that stuff, it's a little bit more expensive. It's a lot more expensive than your typical. Oh, where did I go? Than your typical loan. Let me see. All right, so the numbers every investor must know. GRI, gross rental income. So these are like the acronyms that you're going to see out there. GRI, gross rental income, the total rent collected from all units before any expenses. OPEX, operating expenses, very straightforward. What are operating expenses? Taxes, insurance, maintenance, management fees, everything except the mortgage. NOI, net operating income, income after all operating expenses before the mortgage payment. CF, cash flow, what's left after the mortgage. This is what lands in your account. What's your cash flow like? So, and I was having a conversation with the guy recently. He's like, yeah, man, I'm cash flow negative. Even though I have all these properties, I'm actually cash flow negative. So, cash flow is really, really important when dealing with a multifamily property. COC, cash on cash return, annual cash flow divided by cash invested, your actual return on dollars deployed. So, this is a good number for you to keep as a reference. And by the way, there are tons of websites, tons of resources out there. There's a website that I really like. It's called biggerpockets.com. You sign up for the subscription and you even get access to like their different calculators, and they have different things, and they even put some like really good deals, like as far as this property is a really good deal for this market. So you also get to see some properties there on their site. So Bigger Pockets. Actually, I think I had a subscription at some point, but I should renovate that subscription because it's a great website for those kinds of things. Here is a big one, and this is what I was having a conversation with a couple last week, clients, husband and wife, and I'm like, hey guys, it might be a good opportunity for you guys to start diversifying, especially because you are high W-2 earners. You're paying a lot in taxes, so it might be that time for you guys. Oh no, we don't want to invest in real estate because we don't want to deal with tenants. So there are two ways to go about it. Number one, go the easy route, just hire a property management company. Now, when you hire a property management company, of course, you're going to give, the way you pay for that property management company services is typically by you paying somewhere between 5, 7, 8, 10, 15% per month of whatever the collective rent is to back to the property management company. So that could be an easy one if you kind of want to keep this very passive. And the good thing about property management companies is that there's a lot of great companies out there, and they will also, when they're looking for the tenants, they make sure that they are very specific on the tenant placing, that the tenant meets all the necessary criteria, and they guarantee the rent. Meaning, let's say that the tenant stops paying rent, these property management companies, they will guarantee the rent. They will keep paying you. And I've had clients that they have gotten into some issues with their tenants, that one of them ended up having to go to court, but because he had a property management company, he kept getting the rent. And not only that, but the property management company was going to court on his behalf. So it was really nice because I mean, one of the things, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are a little scared of investing in real estate is also because San Diego, or California, but at least San Diego is a very tenant friendly, protective city. So, man, the rights we have, because I'm a tenant myself as well, the rights that we have as tenants are insane. So, because San Diego is very, very big on protecting tenants, as opposed to some other places, a lot of folks are very, very scared about this. But working with a property management company and having them do all the heavy lifting makes all the sense in the world. Yes, they're going to keep, I don't know, 8, 10% of whatever your margins are. But trust me, I mean, that I would pay for that any day. Now, so, the pros is that it turns your situation, your scenario into more of a passive income situation. You have the professional systems, you have less day-to-day stress, but with that, you also have more expenses. You have the management fees, you have less direct control. So, and when I say more more expenses is like, for example, like let's say that I don't know, the one of the toilets is clogged or whatever, and you just have to, put some Drano or and take the clogger pump or whatever that thing is called, and just do some elbow grease and fix the problem. And sometimes property management companies are gonna be like, no, I sent my plumber out. It was $500 and he fixed it. When it could be something that you could easily fix yourself. So there's less direct control. And here's the other thing that what I really like about the self-management part is that it counts towards your real estate professional status. Real estate professional status, and I'm not, talk to your CPA, talk to your accountant, enrolled agent, tax attorney, but you really want to do some research around real estate professional status. I can do a whole episode where I'm only talking about all the benefits of having that real estate professional status. But let me just give you guys a quick summary. Back in the 80s, there were all these doctors that were making so much money and they were buying real estate and they were using depreciation to offset their ordinary income. And it was just, all these people, all these high W-2 earners, they were doing the same strategy. So the IRS said, I should do something about this. So what the IRS decided to do is the IRS decided to create the real estate professional status. Real estate professional status means that first of all, if you're a W-2 employee, you will not qualify for real estate professional status, but maybe your spouse can be the one that has real estate professional status and you're the high W-2 earner. And having that real estate professional status, it pretty much gives you no limit, no cap on the depreciation that you can take from your real estate investments to offset your ordinary income. So it's very, very powerful, but there are some rules around it that you have to follow. I mean, the two basic ones are you have to spend at least 750 hours a year looking for deals out there, and at least 50% of the time it has to be your own deals. You got to have material participation. I talk to a lot of real estate agents. Oh yeah, of course. I'm a real estate professional. I don't have a business card here in front of me. Oh wait, I do. Uh, I'm a real estate professional. Here's my business card. That's not what before the eyes of the IRS. That's not what that means. So you want to make sure that you are logging your hours, that you're participating at least 50% of the time, and that is at least 750 hours. And self-management is part of the criteria. It can qualify as part of your hours towards getting the real estate professional status. And going through the property management company, gives you it's of course it makes it practically impossible to qualify for real estate professional status, and it gives you less insight into operations. Now, the self-management side of things, I know that a lot of people hate it, but again, there's that dangling carrot, which in my opinion is the real estate professional status. Number one, first of all, you keep that 8 to 10% management fee. You get to keep that yourself. So it allows you to do a few things. It allows you to maybe charge a little bit less of rent, make the situation a little bit more competitive for your tenants, or it just allows you to keep more money in your pocket. You have greater operational control. Hey, you know what? There was no need to pay a plumber $750 just to swing by the property, or all the shower needed was just some Drano and 30 minutes and we're good. You can qualify for real estate professional status, or it counts towards your real estate professional hours, which is very, very significant. But of course, you got to make sure that you are vetting the tenants. You're getting those tenant calls all the time. You got to coordinate repairs yourself, and sometimes they can really drain your time. So I've had both experiences. I've had clients that love the self-management side of things, and I've had clients that hate it, and they've sold their properties because they hated it. But the same thing with working with a property management company. I have clients that love it, and I have clients that, oh my goodness, every time the tenant sneezes, the property management company charges me $500. So, I haven't made money in 4 months, so it really, really just depends on your experience. Talk to me. I have tons of resources when it comes to uh, if you want to go the self-management route, or if you want to consider different property management companies. I work with a few of them, and they're great, and they have a very high reputation. So just a very general overview on the real estate professional status. You got to have this, like I said, 750 hours, 50% plus material participation. The tax advantages, the depreciation, the accelerated depreciation, the bonus depreciation. You can, because typically depreciation can only fall under your passive income category. But by you having real estate professional status, you can treat it like the queen or is it the gambit? No, the pawn in chess. You can move those losses all around. Now there are other ways to tackle those losses, and I'm kind of going off script, which is through the short-term rental loophole, which we call it the ugly cousin of the real estate professional status. But you can also look into that, but then that's Airbnb world. That's a completely different spectrum, and we'll dive into that um, once we start going deeper on Airbnbs. Also, we'll talk about that maybe in a week or two. Another thing that I like about multi-unit properties is that you can do the value add also. You can add, in some areas you can add ADUs to multi-unit properties. So now you started with two, you build four more units in the back. So now you have six units total. So it just, for me, it just gives you a little bit more leverage in any direction you want, whether it's, hey, getting my foot in the door as far as homeownership goes, building equity, getting exposed to the real estate investment side of things, dealing with tenants, all that stuff, doing repairs, roof repairs, and all those kinds of things. It's always better to do. And again, just this is a golden nugget out there. It's always much better to do repairs in a property that you have multiple units under one roof, under one structure, than in different properties and different roofs and different water heaters and different HVACs and all that kind of thing. So you can do all sorts of things when it comes to you can diversify yourself significantly when it comes to multi-unit properties. So the mindset shift. Do I really need to get into that? A homeowner says, "Hey, how much can I afford?" An investor says, "Hey, how much income can this property produce?" A homeowner says, "What's the monthly payment?" An investor says, "What's the return on my investment?" A homeowner says, "How many bedrooms does it have?" And an investor says, "How many doors does it have?" Right. So I really like this path, the 2 to 4 unit strategy, and like I said, this is kind of like the stepping stone to get into, to get deeper underwater, to get deeper into real estate investing. You go from having a few duplexes to maybe buying a fourplex. From the fourplex, you sold one of the duplexes, you used that as down payment for, and then you start getting into syndications, joint ventures, all that stuff, seller financing, and all those other sorts of deals that are out there that I see on a daily basis all across the country. Skills you first, yeah. So this is, what are you going to learn by owning a multi-unit property? Everything from financing and deal structuring to property management systems, negotiating tax. This is just something. It's just a slide that I threw in there. Uh, Common mistakes, buying emotionally. Typically, when it comes to multi-unit properties, people are more about the numbers than emotions. I think the biggest mistake is, one of the mistakes is definitely poor tenant screening if going the self-management route. Um, Another mistake is no reserves. You gotta make sure that you have some sort of a cushion there, some sort of reserves. But I think the biggest mistake is that folks just say, "Oh, you know what? No, this is just not for me. No, nope, nope. Right? Have you heard about multi? No, stop. No, this is not for me." So I think that's the biggest mistake. Like I said, people still want to tackle the market like if it was 1981, and that's not the case. To get that white picket fence house, now you got to build some equity unless you're okay with making a $6,500 payment or a $5,500 payment after principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. But if you really want to have a little more cushion and a little more flexibility, and kind of like a stepping stone to so many different things. I think multifamily is the way to go. So a lot of folks, what they do is they just completely um, disregard it as soon as they hear it. No, I want a condo. No, I want a single family home, and I think that's the biggest mistake. Okay, so is multifamily right for you? Maybe ideal if you want a consistent monthly cash flow, if you want multiple income streams, if you want to build long-term wealth, if you want to maybe get into the ADU building side of things, if you eventually want to own larger portfolios, house hacking, it's ideal for all those things. Might not be ideal if you want completely passive investing, if you're stuck on that white picket fence house, if you don't want any tenant involvement, and if you prefer turnkey ownership only as opposed to, having multiple tenants there. So I know that it might sting a little bit because it's like, no, this is not what I'm used to. And I get it. Like I said earlier, it's not the way we were raised, but that's the current reality in 2026 in San Diego's 2026 real estate market. By the way, next week I'm going to be we're going to talk about a uh, why am I losing my train of thought here? It's not even 4 o'clock. Next week, we're going to be doing a very deep dive on the San Diego real estate market, but we're going to look at everything from jobs to the economy to sales, what's selling, what's not selling, what neighborhoods are hot, what neighborhoods are not are stalling. What should you focus on? What should you not focus on? My forecast for the next few years, which I already talked about it a little bit. So we're going to be doing a deep dive on the real estate market next week. So make sure that you listen to that. And I just threw this quote there. I mean, it doesn't really mean it's not like I pulled it from a real estate investing book or anything. The duplex is not the destination; it's the classroom. It's where investors learn the skills, the systems, and the mindset that lead to apartment buildings, syndications, private capital, and true portfolio level wealth. Talk to me. Let's talk about different strategies. This is my personal favorite, but I'm not married to it. If you have something else in mind, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to walk you through it. I'll be happy to walk you through the pros and cons of all the different ones, and then we can come up with something custom to your needs. Like I said in the last episode, we're all in different situations. So maybe what works for me doesn't work for you. Maybe what works for you doesn't work for your brother, your sister, your neighbor next door, right? So we're all in different situations, but the idea is to really build some sort of passive wealth, get into real estate investing. I recently read, and I forget where I read this, but 90% of the world's richest folks, outside of whatever it is that they did to be uber rich, their next thing is real estate. So real estate is always a good option. So you just got to know how to navigate it. You just have to understand the different markets. You got to look for those opportunities, understand what an opportunity looks like, because an opportunity here in San Diego looks very, very different than an opportunity in San Antonio, Texas, right? So you have to understand what those opportunities look like, because a lot of folks have that mindset like, no, I want an opportunity. I'm, if the purchase price, if the sales price, if the property is listed for 750,000, I'm gonna offer 300,000. This is not the market for that, and the data shows it, right? So if you're, like I said, if you're interested into jumping into the real estate investing side of things, into testing the waters, let's have a conversation. Let's see where you're at. Let's see what your goals look like. Let's see where you see yourself in the future, in the next 3, 5, 10 years, and let's start building from there. And I'm here primarily as a resource. I'm here primarily to add value to you. Again, I am Carlos Gonzalez. It's been a pleasure presenting this to you. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you guys on the next one.